In this afternoon, I feel privileged in introducing renowned scholar, eminent writer, Professor I.N. Chaudhary, who has created a niche for himself in academics, administration, and cultural diplomacy. He has taught in Delhi University, Uch Shiksha or Shodh Sansthan DBHP Hyderabad, and University of Bucharest, Bulgaria, and is visiting professor in many other universities. A distinguished cultural administrator of India, Professor Chaudhary was Secretary to Sahitya Academy, Minister Culture, Indian High Commission, London, and Director, the Nehru Centre, London. He has also held the position of Member Secretary and Academic Director of Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts in New Delhi. A prolific writer, he has written extensively on comparative literature, poetics and aesthetics in Hindi, English and Bengali as well. His contribution in upliftment of Hindi language is incredible. He was chief editor of Conscience Hindi Encyclopedia, a project of Kendriya Hindi Sansthan, Agra, Ministry of HRD. He was also chief editor, revised version of the Encyclopedia Sahitya Academy. The Indian Council for Cultural Relations has created Tagore Chair in University of Edinburgh, Napier, Scotland, and Professor Chaudhary has been given the honor of being its first in charge. In recognition of his invaluable contribution in the field of language and literature, he has been conferred upon many awards, the most prestigious Kendriya Hindi Sansthan, Ministry of HRD's Ganga Sharan Singh Award from President of India and Delhi Hindi Academy Award. We in CCRT feel very proud and privileged to have a long association with Professor I.N. Chaudhary, and he has, whenever he has come to CCRT and had an interaction with our teachers, he has left them spellbound and motivated. On your behalf and behalf of CCRT, I extend my heartiest welcome to him. Welcome here, sir.
Thank you. The subject given to me is language, core of culture. संस्कृति का मूल भाषा है. This is the meaning of that. Language, core of culture. And the second topic which is given to me is narratives and stories in visual and performing arts. यानी नैरेटिव्स तो आप समझते हैं ना. नैरेटिव्स होता है वर्णनात्मक कहानियां, और कहानियां. परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स का मतलब होता है ड्रामा. इन कहानियों का हाउ डू वी यूज द स्टोरीज एंड नैरेटिव्स in our performing arts and in our visual paintings. Now, those two persons from Bengal, I don't know whether you have the idea that in Bengal we have a tradition of patuas who go on relate stories by showing it in paintings. They go on showing. The similar thing you can see Rajasthan. Rajasthan में पट, पढ़, क्या एक tradition है. There is a tradition of पढ़. वो they have stories painted in a big say cloth. And as they go on moving the cloth, they go on explaining at the same time the stories. Now, there is a boy in Malayalam from Kerala. Is there anybody? No. In Kerala, they have a performing art. Now, performing stages, performing arts have three types in India. क्लासिकल थिएटर. क्लासिकल थिएटर एक कहा जाता है जिसमें कालिदास आते हैं. एंड द मॉडर्न थिएटर some of the classical writers like Tendulkar or like say Girish Karnad. You know, they have written many classical dramas, Shastriya, and those dramas are presented on the stage. We have a second type of performing art, उसको कहते हैं traditional performing art. Now Kathakali is a traditional performing art. Yakshagan of Karnataka, traditional say theatre of India. And then Jatra in Bengal is a traditional theatre. There is a third form which is known as folk drama. Folk drama, typically folk drama, Lok Natak. Lok Natak. And there are various forms of Lok Natak available which are staged in villages. गांव में ये नाटक खेले जाते हैं और इस तरह के नाटक भी बहुत पॉपुलर हैं, लोकप्रिय हैं in India. Now in the traditional theatre I was telling, Kathakali, they always narrate a story. They always narrate a story from Ramayana or from Mahabharata or from classical Sanskrit texts. So the subject is narrative and stories in visual and performing arts. We will also include literature in it. The narratives and stories in literature also will include. Now, let us start with language. Language is the core component of human existence. हम लोग जो इस दुनिया में रहते हैं, हमारे अस्तित्व का सबसे बड़ा प्रमाण भाषा है. We exist because we speak as human beings. So, Manushya is the term in Sanskrit. And what is the term for man in Tamil? Huh? Now, if you notice in both the words, in the Tamil word and also in the Sanskrit word, there is a mana. Mana means the mind. I mean, the thinking mind. The Manushya or the human being is known because of the thinking mind. वो सोच सकता है. Janvars, the animals can think or not, I cannot tell you. But there are various examples where animals also think, and particularly with reference to elephants, this is said. You know, you have heard the name of Plato? Plato was an ancient Greek scholar of great merit. बहुत बड़ा फिलोसोफर था प्लेटो. जब प्लेटो जब सोच रहा है, when he is thinking that how names are the name, when he is contemplating how the names are devised. Are they devised as conventional or as natural devices? Conventional means traditionally if we accept a thing, that is known as conventional. So names are given to many things, to men, human beings, those who are not human beings. Everything has a name. But this name, for example, mobile or pen. Pen, this is a pen. They all have names. Kalam in Hindi, in English pen. So all these names, how do they come? Do they come as conventional or do they come as a natural device? When Plato was thinking like this, the theoretical speculation in India was quite advanced. The Sanskrit grammarian, Panini, or the Tamil grammarian, Tolkappiyar, they were all started thinking some 2,500 to 3,000 years ago. Speculation, theoretical speculation, सैद्धांतिक विचार शुरू हो चुका है. सैद्धांतिक विचार, theoretical speculation cannot start on a day. एक दिन में शुरू नहीं होता है. There is a history behind it of thousands of years, and then the speculation starts. So some 3,000 years ago or 2,500 years ago, in Tamil and in Sanskrit, already theoretical speculation had started. Panini has written his book of grammar, Ashtadhyayi, which had 4,000 interacting rules, niyam of grammar, 4,000 interacting. They are not just rules to be known as rules. They are interacting rules. They are used in languages. 4,000 in 4 different parts. When India has advanced to such an extent, Plato was just that time was trying to determine how the names are devised, conventionally or naturally. That doesn't mean that the West is inferior. I want to make it very clear, ancient is good. To start a thing long back, which was not done in other places, is good. When we were completely civilized people, Europe was uncivilized. But that has not kept European backwards. They had advanced, and they have advanced much ahead of us in science and technology, and even in speculating thought. They have advanced quite a lot. So, old is gold, that what we say is all right. But don't forget that old should not make you proud, that we are the ancient most people who are advanced to such an extent and advanced long back when Plato was just thinking of names. It won't help you. आपको सब जगह से नॉलेज, ज्ञान गैदर करना पड़ेगा, जुटाना पड़ेगा. You will have to get knowledge from all the sources, Western, Eastern, even folk sources. Now, why I am saying folk sources? Remember one thing, and it is very important for you to remember, that folk is always relegated in the background in the West. Folk is never given importance as is given to classical literature. And hence they would always say there is a great tradition and there is a little tradition. ये जो great and little जो दो words हैं, इसी से इन दोनों का फर्क बता दिया गया है. The difference between great and between classical and folk are already made clear by these two adjectives, great and little. अरे ये तो little है, and this is great. In India, we never talk like this. For us, folk is equally important as classical. In fact, folk and classical are the two pillars of the same continuum. यानी भाषा और साहित्य के विस्तार में ये दोनों पिलर्स का काम करते हैं, folk and classical, and they are always complementary to each other. I marvel, I'm really, truly telling you, I marvel the theoretical speculation of this country. There was a great grammarian whose name was Patanjali. You must have heard his name. He was also a yoga person who has created the philosophy of yoga also. One of the philosophers of yoga. Patanjali said that Lokamata means the opinion of the people, determines polity, determines wise men, determine polity, determine everything. I mean, unthinkable how much importance we are giving to a common man and the thinking of a common man. It is so important, Lokamata. They are not talking of the Vidwan, the scholars and their ideas. They are not talking about it. Patanjali says Lokamata is equally important. And in fact, Lokamata determines polity. Lokamata determines wise saying. So imagine of this country. Just imagine. What a different way of thinking we have in this country. Our literature is determined by both Loka and Shastra, classical literature and the folk literature. Both are together create our literature, because our literature is both written and oral. Orality has a very important position in our country. मौखिक साहित्य. और आज भी in the villages the storyteller goes and in the evening tells stories. They are all oral stories, and hundreds of people gather in the evening to listen to those stories. Remember, this is the most, say, innovative thing of the speculation of this country. One, that here we always look at folk and classical as complementary. एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़े रहते हैं, ये complementary है. And second, that we give importance to Lokamata, the opinion of the people. People is truly, truly important in this country. In the West they talk of democracy, but the true democracy prevailed in this country, though here the monarchy was very important. Monarchy जो था, राजा, वो बहुत important था. But Raja would not, king would not just take decision on himself. He will find out what the people are thinking about the country. लोग क्या सोच रहे हैं इस देश के बारे में. And accordingly, he will determine his course of action. Language के बारे में दो बातें. Please kindly keep two things say in your mind. Two general principles about language. that the fixed and unvarying laws of nature which regulate matter and mind, fixed and unvarying, जो fixed है and that which does not change, unvarying, laws of nature, the change in season, it is fixed. The moon coming on the sky and then it becomes full and then slowly it goes on, say lowering its fullness. It is fixed. Sun coming in the morning in a fixed time, it is fixed. So there are many laws of nature. Are you understanding me? Huh? There are many laws of nature which are fixed. Those laws of nature regulate matter, padarth. Matter is padarth. ये matter है, ये matter है, and mind, human mind. They regulate. And because of this regulation, our language comes into being by regulation of this. Second, the argument of those, the agreement of those who use it. If you are using a language, there should be a general agreement that the language should be spoken, used in this way. Kalam and pen, the name Kalam is now, we are all in agreement that if I say Kalam or pen, what does it mean? We are in agreement of it. So words which are denotative, which are dictionary words, we always are in agreement about the meaning of those words. Okay, this is one thing. Secondly, remember that language is always grows in a cultural context. Culture plays a very important role in language. What is aap? Aap means a honorific pronoun used for a respectable and elderly person in Hindi. In Sanskrit, the term is bhavati. And what is the term in Tamil for, what is the pronoun used for a respectable person or a father or mother? Yeah. Now, why do we use it? It is not used in English. What is the reason? हम अंग्रेजी में तो आप नहीं है. Everything is you. But in Indian culture, आप or in Bengali, apni, they are used. Why? Why? Because culture plays a very important part in it. Culture says, when you talk with your elders, use aap. Aap. And hence, remember, we always write to our parents, when we are writing letters to our parents, we always give them our pranam. We always tell that we bow on your feet. We write it. Then we will address parents in an honorific way. Adaraniya in Hindi, respected. Even those Indians who are writing letters in English to their parents, they write respected father. But you may raise a question here, that we at the same time use the term tumi or tum for father, mother. We use it. Why? This is a question. It's a very, very interesting history of the use of pronouns in India. Extremely interesting history. The pronouns are used differently in different contexts. And you just can't you can't tell why they are used. But they are used. For example, there are many poems in different Indian languages where God is addressed as you, not as aap. God is always addressed as you. Isn't it? Am I not correct? भगवान को हम जब बोलते हैं भगवान के बारे में तब तुम कहते हैं, तुम हमारा ख्याल रखो, आप हमारा ख्याल रखो कभी कहते हैं? कभी नहीं कहते. So kindly remember that there is a very funny historical background in the use of pronoun, but all these relate to the statement that language is controlled by culture. It is the culture which controls the language. You know that this whole age, the time in India is divided into 4. Yuga, the epoch. The first epoch was क्या था? First युग क्या था? Satya Yuga. And what is in Tamil for Satya Yuga? Okay. So there is Satya Yuga, then there is Treta, then Dwapar, and then Kali. What does it indicate? Why the yugas, the epochs, are determined like this from superior to inferior stage of human life? Why? Why we do it like this? Are we becoming inferior day by day? We are no more superior. That's what we notice. What we notice. Yesterday or day before yesterday, I read a statement made by that famous singer Asha Bhosle. You have heard this name? Asha Bhosle is saying that I can't even hear the songs which are now sung in Hindi films. They are so bad in their nature. Ugly songs are now to be found in Hindi cinemas. Why she is complaining? Because she is finding what is happening in our use of language. We are no more respectable in the use of language, even in songs. And songs are becoming very ugly, but those are the songs which are liked by the present generation. आज की जो generation है वो इस तरह के गीत हैं उनको पसंद कर रहे हैं. There are so many songs are sung in yeah. Now these kind of things, and it is, the things are becoming more and more open with the passage of time. More and more open. I am not saying anything. I am not giving my opinion. I have just given the opinion of Asha Bhosle. I don't give my opinion because I have great faith in the present generation. Their lingo, unki bhasha, may be different from my bhasha. their social behavior may be different from my way of socializing. But they are intelligent, and on top of it, they love their country. That's what I have noticed among the youth of this country. They may be talking in a slang language. Slang language समझते हैं ना? चालू भाषा में बातचीत करते होंगे जो हम लोग नहीं करते. उनका सोशल बिहेवियर भी दूसरे ढंग का है. हमारा सोशल बिहेवियर अलग था, मगर फिर भी वो लोग इंटेलिजेंट हैं. दे आर इंटेलिजेंट and they love the country. These are the two things for which I don't give my opinion. I watch, and I love to watch. Now, they say language is meant to give expression to thought. भाषा विचारों का प्रसार करती है. भाषा का काम है. लैंग्वेज इज मेंट टू गिव एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ थॉट, बट इट इज नॉट ए वन वे ट्रैफिक. व्हेन आई से लैंग्वेज गिव्स एक्सप्रेशन टू थॉट, आई एम गिविंग इंपॉर्टेंस टू लैंग्वेज फर्स्ट. देयर शुड बी लैंग्वेज फर्स्ट. द लैंग्वेज comes first. हम कह रहे हैं ना, language is meant to give expression to thought. So first comes language, and then the thought comes. But it is not a one-way traffic. Thought cannot come. Thought always comes in a language, but thought is not possible without language. And hence, language and thought, shabda and artha. Shabda is language, words, language. Artha is thought, artha. Shabda and artha, they are in complementary relation. एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़े रहते हैं एकदम. Absolutely they become one, and this has been explained by Kalidasa. Who is Kalidasa? A great dramatist in Sanskrit and poet. He writes, Shabda and Artha, they remain intertwined as Parvati and Parveshwar. Parvati and Lord Shiva. Is there any Muslim here in the class? हाँ, बेटे I won't be able to give you examples from Quran. But I only want to say, you understand English? अंग्रेजी समझते हैं? हाँ, हिंदी में, उर्दू में बता देता हूँ कि हमारी नॉलेज इतनी नहीं है कि मैं कुरान के बारे में बोल सकूं आपको, मगर मैं इतना जानता हूँ कि इट इज ए ग्रेट बुक ऑफ विजडम. दिस मच आई नो. I am not saying it is a great religious book. A great book of wisdom. Wisdom समझते हैं ना? हाँ. Wisdom का जो है बहुत बड़ी किताब है और उसको पढ़ना चाहिए. One must read it. I won't be able to give you examples from them there. So hence my examples are mostly from Sanskrit. Okay? तो कालिदास का जो नाटक है, शिव एंड पार्वती जैसे एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़े रहते हैं, उसी तरह से एब्सोल्युटली लाइक दिस, द वर्ड एंड मीनिंग दे आर इंटरट्वाइंड. ओके, सो दिस इज द फर्स्ट थिंग अबाउट लैंग्वेज. काइंडली कीप इट इन माइंड. बिफोर दैट आई हैव टोल्ड यू दैट द फिक्स्ड एंड अनवेरिंग लॉज ऑफ नेचर व्हिच रेगुलेट मैटर एंड माइंड. Now a child is born. Is a child born without the natural laws of nature? No. The natural laws of nature play a very dominant part in the birth of a child. The husband and wife, their relation. The wife becomes pregnant. Then for 9 months, she keeps the child in her womb. The child grows according to the food which the wife takes. Very important. According to the food which the wife takes and according to the circumstances, natural circumstances in which the wife stays, then only the child grows. So everything is related with natural fixed laws. And when the child grows, there is a great linguist. Now before that, let me tell you, linguistics का अर्थ क्या होता है in Hindi? भाषा विज्ञान. Linguistics in Hindi is भाषा विज्ञान. It is the science of languages. But some 60-70 years ago, the word linguistic was not used for the science of languages. The word linguistic was used for, term used for the science of languages was philology. Philology was the term some 70 years ago. Philologist, we will say, as we say linguistic, linguistic. He's a linguist. He's a linguist. As we say, he's a linguist. Similarly, we would say he's a philologist. Now, when philology was growing, that time they would say the language is that which is written, and those languages which are not written are not languages, they are dialects. Bhasha and Boli. Bhasha and Boli. They are dialects. You follow? So, it was during the time of philology, language is divided into Bhasha and dialects. Bhasha, language and dialects. But then came the modern linguistics. And with modern linguistics, the father of modern linguistics was Saussure, a Frenchman. You will be surprised to know Saussure wrote his PhD on Sanskrit grammar. He wrote his PhD in Sanskrit grammar and he got the ideas of understanding what are the, say, notions of linguistics through Sanskrit grammar. He was the father of modern linguistics. But the best man of modern linguistics is who? Chomsky.
I'm a linguist, sir.
I say, okay, very good. Now, who is the topmost Indian linguist in India who is no more? Suniti Kumar Chatterjee. And who is the present one? Second one, who is also no more? No. B.H. Krishnamurti. He was from Andhra. He was the second topmost. He died also 2 years ago. At the age of 77, he wrote a book on Dravidian linguistics, which was brought out by Cambridge. That shows how great a scholar he was, that he was ever evolving himself. He was not static, evolving himself. Anyway, Chomsky turned down this whole philological division of language as language and dialect. And first thing he said, everything is a language. Whether you write or whether you speak orally a language, अगर आप मौखिक बोली में बोलते हैं जो लिखा नहीं जाता, that is also a language. First thing Chomsky said this. Second thing said, biological determined in the human mind, hence genetically transmitted. Genes, आपने सुना है ना, you have heard about genes and chromosomes? हमारे, in our body there are millions and millions of genes and million of chromosomes. From where do we get our genes? From our parents. So genes are transmitted from one to another to another to another. You understand? And that determines our attitude to life. Once upon a time we used to say sanskar. Sanskar is nothing but genes which determine your father was always an angry man. बाप बड़ा angry आदमी था. तो बेटा भी angry है. Beta also gets angry very soon. The people will say बाप पर गया है. कहते हैं ना, संस्कार. Sanskar is nothing but genes. Now Chomsky is saying it is genetically transmitted. Biological determination in the human mind is genetically, जो कुछ भी हमारे mind में है, whatever is in our mind, biologically they are transmitted genetically. In other words, language remains in our mind. This is the unique thing said by Chomsky, and he said there is no difference here between human beings and animal. They are the same way they think, and their thinking process is determined, their biological determination of biological in the human mind, and hence genetically transmitted. So now what we are watching, that from environment, from natural rules, we are slowly moving towards mind. That language grows in the mind, and mind is genetically controlled. मेरा mind is individual. It is individual. But there is genes which are transmitted from forefathers and forefathers and father, parents to me. That also determines. But I am a human being. I also act independently, and hence I go on changing and create my innovative mind. Tagore's father, Tagore का नाम सुना है? Tagore's father was a Maharshi. He was a very religious man, extremely religious man, and he used to visit Himalayas. Often he will go and he will take Tagore with him, and on his way they will stop at Har Mandir. It is the golden temple of Amritsar. The actual name is Har Mandir, Hari ka Mandir. This is the actual name. And Maharshi Devendranath Tagore will stop in that mandir, and he will worship there also, because he had a different kind of a concept of spirituality, where the whole world is pervaded by one. एक ईश्वर वो सारे विश्व में छाया हुआ है. So whether it is Har Mandir, or whether it is Jama Masjid, or whether it is a Hindu temple, there was no difference for him. He would always say that one is pervading everything. These kind of ideas we had in our country. Great ideas. Great ideas. Now, Subramaniam Bharati. Who is Subramaniam Bharati? He would always say, India speaks in 20 tongues. Think of his mind. What a great mind he had. He's not talking of Tamil only. He's talking of India. And he will say India speaks in 20 tongues, in 20 languages. Now, this kind of a greatness we see, and the time has come for us to revive those greatness of Maharshi Devendranath, or of Subramaniam Bharati, or of Valla Tol, or of Tulsidas. They are the great people. इनसे हमें सीखना चाहिए अब हमें पूरे नेचर, हम लोग बड़े लिमिटेड हो गए. We have become very limited in our attitude. But India is a country which never believed in limitedness. Limitedness में India believe नहीं करता है. क्यों कह रहा हूँ? Why I am saying this? Why I am saying this? Because India does not believe just in unity. India believes also in diversity. India does not believe in unilinear movement of thought. India believes in multilinear movement of thought. And hence in India we have many ideas. We have many religions. We have many spiritual saints and sages, many languages, many culture. Can I say this? India has many culture. It has. It is not one culture. It is a composite culture. Samasik Sanskriti. Hamari Sanskriti is Samasik Sanskriti. It is created by Hindus, by Buddhas, by Islam, and by Western Christianity, and Sikhs also. All have created this culture. When I look at this culture, I am reminded of a poem by Wordsworth, Daffodils. पढ़ा है ना आप लोगों ने? In Daffodils, what we see, Wordsworth describes, daffodils, so if this is the earth, daffodil grows only up to this. Only up to this it grows from here. But it grows in huge number. Pura field, the field is full of daffodil plants and full of daffodil flowers. And when the wind blows, the daffodil also moves like this. And India is absolutely like a huge garden of daffodils, where we have so many different ideas. Classical literature, folk literature, different forms of dramas, different ways of behavior, different culture. And this is India. And we have always lived like that in India. Unity, our unity is not determined by one single opinion. Our unity is determined by different opinions. And for a Westerner, it is very difficult to realize this point, that how can diversity brings unity in this country. They can't understand it. If we believe in diversity, only then unity is maintained in this country. Otherwise not. If you talk of one religion in this country will be finished. If we talk of one culture in this country will be finished. Remember, this country lives with variety of opinions, with multiple thought, with diverse notions of human existence. And hence for us, it is so easy to get the things from the other sources because we believe in adaptability. हम adapt कर लेते हैं बहुत quickly. And there are examples of examples. We are using what kind of language today? In language, language is created by codes. Codes. So, our language is now determined by different codes. In India, if you are a Tamilian, you are speaking Tamil, but you are also using English words in it. Same is in Hindi, same in Bengali, same in Gujarati, same in Marathi. This is a new language which is developing. And language always develops like this. Language is like the flow of a river. And it goes on changing its course. If you go and visit Red Fort, when you will see the back wall, remember by the side of the back wall flew river Yamuna. Now river Yamuna has gone 5 kilometers away from that. So language is a flow like a river, but it changes its course. वो course बदलती रहती है. It goes on changing its course. So language continues to develop like this. And whenever a new language comes, we first look at it as something very wrong happening. This is what happens in India, that we always look at it as something wrong happening. And we condemn a new language. You must have heard people condemning the new way of speaking using both Hindi and English, or Bengali and English, or Marathi and English. You must have heard people saying, old people like me saying, it is wrong, it should not happen like this. We are just killing the language. We are killing Marathi, we are killing Bengali, we are killing Gujarati. ऐसे बोलते रहते हैं हम लोग. But language grows. You cannot stop it. After 50 years, this will be the language of the elite. This kind of a language which we are using today. It happens like that. So, it only indicates diversity. It only indicates diversity. The change comes in India through diversity. This is the first part about language. The second part, which is there were four. How does language come into existence? It comes into existence through the use of language by races. Race, R-A-C-E, race is jati. So a language grows by the use of that language by a particular race. There were four races who were responsible in creating all the Indian languages. The first race which came into India. Now, there is a big question. The big question is, was this country was not inhabited by anybody? क्या इस country में कभी कोई लोग रहते नहीं थे? Why I am raising this question? Because whenever we talk about languages, we talk about races, and we say that all these races came from outside. Then what about India? It never had any people living in this country. Why we say languages grew in India? Because people from different races came to this country one after another, and they were responsible in the development of languages. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with you. There must have been staying large number of people, they must be speaking in a language about which we have no idea now. No idea now. And hence we say that the Indian culture, Indian language was determined by the people who came from outside. But at the same time, I cannot disapprove this also because I have no evidence. मेरे पास साक्ष्य नहीं है. मैं बता नहीं सकता कि in this country people stayed, they spoke in a language, they had a culture. I can't say because I have no evidence. But there are evidences that people came from outside, one after another. Some 10,000 years ago came Negroids from Africa. There was a time when Africa and India were together. There was no Arabian Sea in between. Shifting of earth. This is the theory in geography. Earth shifts, but shifting takes place 10,000, 20,000 years, only then. So Africans came here 9,000 years ago, and a jati is determined by the facial expression of the person. Negroids, what is the facial expression of Negroids? They have long-headed people. From this place, their head is like this. Long-headed people with curly hair, black in color. They are the Negroids. Now, these characteristic, ये जो सब characteristic है किसी एक जाति का, उसको लेकर मजाक करने का कोई मतलब नहीं होता है. मतलब नहीं होता है. Because every race has its own characteristic. We Indians have our own characteristics. The Negroes have their own characteristic. And I can tell you, if people are staying in Mars, मंगल ग्रह में अगर आदमी रहते हैं, and if they by chance they come in India and they see our, most beautiful woman, they may think they are very ugly. They may think, because their notion of beauty may be different than our notion of beauty. You understand? So hence, जो facial expression होता है of a jati, people of a jati, should not be a reason of making fun of them. We should never do it. So these are the Negroids. They came with their language. They spread their language. But now there is no evidence of their language to be found in India. उनका evidence नहीं है language का. Except that there are still people of Negroid race staying at two places in India. One is Andaman and Nicobar Island. One place, another place is Andhra. We see by determining the genes that they belong to the Negroid race. One. Second came, proto-astroloids. Proto-astroloids, कहाँ से आ रहे थे? Why do they come? Why people migrated in the ancient time? Why? What was the reason of their migration? Scarcity, famine, war, famine, flood, and as a result, scarcity of food. Sorry? Yeah. And hence it is very difficult. So they migrated. So Negroids must have migrated because of this reason. And they migrated mostly from the Africa and what we call not Central Asia, that part of Asia which was there between the Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean Sea, remember, this is Africa, and there is the Mediterranean Sea, and this is Europe. So from this side came people to India, and Aryans came from Central Asia. They came from Central Asia. So proto-Australoids came, and proto-Australoids were responsible in creating the most powerful say race in this country, known as Austric race. When proto-Australoids came here, within 500 years or 1000 years, they changed into a new race, and the new race came to be known as Austric race. This Austric, their language is still to be found. उनकी भाषा अभी भी इस देश में आप सुन सकते हैं among the tribals, the Santhales and the Rajasthani, what they call Bhil, Santhales. In Logos, in their language, they speak the Austric language. And if somebody asks me, at least this is what Suniti Kumar Chatterjee has said, that if somebody asks me, what is the ancient most language of this country, then what will be the reply? Huh? Indo-Aryan is Sanskrit. And Tamilians, what is the ancient language? Tamil. Good, very good. I accept both the opinion. But I have my reason. What I will do by determining that this is the ancient most language of this country, either Sanskrit or Tamil, what it is going to help me? Will it help me to have water in every village of this country? Even after 67 years of our independence, we could not do it. Will it be able to remove corruption from this country? Nothing. Will we get more than 2 medals in the Olympics? Or will we play along with Brazil and Argentina in the World Cup? It will never happen. If we go on fighting, which is the oldest language of this country, because fighting will not help us in getting water in this country, getting at least 10 to 15 medals in the Olympics, or help us to have our football team in the World Cup. It will not help. So I don't get into this unnecessary controversy of which is the oldest language of this country. I can only say that Tamil and Sanskrit are both very ancient language of this country, and Tamil is as powerful as Sanskrit is. Tamil has also a grammar of same merit as of Panini's Ashtadhyayi, Tolkapier's Tolkapiam. They have everything they have. Because India is to be looked as a total one. एक संपूर्ण इकाई की तरह हिंदुस्तान को देखना है. और जब when you start looking at India as a total whole, then you understand India much better than looking in parts. Looking in parts, you can never understand India. But Suniti Kumar Chatterjee, the first topmost linguist of this country, said that if you want to come to a conclusion of which is the ancient most language of this country, then we'll have to say some kind of a language which was spoken by the Austric people of this country. Austric people, those proto-Australoids. Proto-Australoids who came from the Mediterranean Sea area and who settled in here, and after 500 or 1000 years they turned into another race और उस रेस का नाम हुआ ऑस्ट्रिक, एंड आफ्टर टर्निंग दे मूव्ड आउट ऑफ इंडिया. Some stayed here in India, rest went to Tasmania, Australia, Polynesia. In all those islands, they moved from India. The third race was known as Armenoids. They again came from that area. They came to India, and they were the people responsible in creating the Dravidian culture. The Dravidian culture was created by the Armenoids, and it flourished as a very important component of Indian culture, Indian life. Very important component, Dravidian culture. And then came the Indo-European. They came from Central Asia. They came from the foothills of the sorry? Yes. They came from there, and they came and settled here in India. Some settled in Europe, some settled in Iran. Iran, Europe, India. And hence the linguist found there is a similarity in the use of ancient languages of these areas. So they found that the ancient Sanskrit is known as Vedic Sanskrit, the language in which Vedas were written. They found that it has similarity with the old Iranian language known as Avesta. They found, and also similarity with the old Latin. They found a great similarity among these languages of three areas. That is called as Indo-European languages. And Vedic Sanskrit is the ancient most Indo-European language. And the fourth race was Sino-Tibetan. They came from Mongolia by crossing the Himalayas. They came here and they settled in the foothills of Himalayas, and there are two languages which are influenced by this Sino-Tibetan group of languages. One was Nepali, the other was Manipuri. Why I am talking of Nepali when I am talking of Indian languages? Nepal is a different country, but why I am including Nepali while talking of Indian languages?
Nepal was a part of India.
No, that is not the answer. The answer is Sikkim. We have a state, Sikkim, where Nepali is spoken, and our Indians write in Nepali. They are Indians. There are large number of Nepalis stay in the Darjeeling district. They also write in Nepali. So hence Nepali is also included in our group of languages, and it is a language which is recognized by Sahitya Academy as well as by the, I think, by the Constitution of India. Now, these four races, Negroids, Proto-Australoids and Austric, Armenoids and Sino-Tibetan, all these four races created four language groups. The Dravidian language group, the Indo-European language group, the Austric language group and the Sino-Tibetan language group. ये जो चार जातियां हैं, इन चार जातियों से चार भाषा परिवार का जन्म हुआ. पहला भाषा परिवार द्रविड़ भाषा परिवार, दूसरा जो है भारोपीय भाषा परिवार, थर्ड जो है वो है ऑस्ट्रिक भाषा परिवार, और चौथा है सिनो तिब्बतन भाषा परिवार। इन चार भाषाओं से जो भाषाएं निकली, द लैंग्वेजेस which are included in these four language families are the languages which are recognized by the Constitution of India. Now let us quickly talk about those languages and some speciality of it. There are Dravidian four main languages. Malayalam. I am saying main languages. These are the four main languages. But there are other languages which are equally strong. Tulu is a very strong language, but it is not recognized by the Constitution. Then, which are the Western four languages? Konkani, Gujarati, Marathi and Sindhi. These are the four Western Indian languages. 4 and 4. And there are 12 Central India languages, 12. Let us start with Sanskrit. Then Punjabi, Hindi, Maithili, Assamese, Bengali, Odia and Urdu. These are the Central Indian languages. I have included Bengali, etc. They belong to eastern part of India. But I have included them because they belong to Indo-European group of languages. Let us talk of these languages on the basis of the language families. That is better an idea. The Dravidian language family has 4 languages: Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada. The Indo-European language family has 12 languages: Konkani, Marathi, Gujarati, Sindhi, Punjabi, Hindi, Maithili, Assamese, Bengali, Odia and Urdu. Urdu is a little different, thoda different hai. I will explain in what way it is different. And then the Austric languages, there are 2 languages which are recognized by the Constitution of India, which are Austric languages. Boliye? Santhali and Bodo. Santhali and Bodo. Bodo is spoken where? Meghalaya and Assam. Santhali is spoken where? In 3 places: Jharkhand, Bengal and Madhya Pradesh. Santhali is spoken. And Sino-Tibetan, 2 languages, Nepali and Manipuri. If you count them, in total they become 22 languages. The Constitution of India recognizes these 22 languages. And I will talk of 1, 2, 3 languages, 4 languages which have some speciality. Konkani. Is there anybody who speaks Konkani among you? Nobody? Now let us talk about Konkani first. What is the speciality of Konkani? Konkani is written in 4 scripts. It is written in Devanagari script, the script which is used in Sanskrit. It is and Hindi and Marathi. Konkani is also used, is written in Devanagari script. Then it is written in Malayali script. Then it is written in Kannada script. And then it is written in Roman script. That means in English script. This is the speciality of Konkani. The Konkani is written in 4 scripts. You won't find any other language where so many scripts are used to write that language. You won't find it. Number 1. Number 2, Sanskrit. What is the speciality of Sanskrit? Sanskrit is a created language. Language grows, as I have told you, in a culture. Language grows like the flow of a river. You cannot control the growth of a language. As the river goes on changing its course, the language also changes its form and structure. It changes. And hence, language has the same potentiality as the river has. So language grows like this. But Sanskrit has not grown like that. Sanskrit was created. The original language was Vedic Sanskrit. When the Aryans came, they came with their Vedic Sanskrit. The Sanskrit in which Vedas are written. Vedas जिस भाषा में लिखा गया है उसको कहते हैं हम प्राचीन संस्कृत या वैदिक संस्कृत. उसका नाम है वैदिक संस्कृत. अब हुआ क्या, इस भाषा को जो है संवारा गया. This language was chiseled. You know chiseling? When you make a statue in bronze, you chisel the bronze slowly and create a statue. So this language was chiseled. This language was created to make it beautiful. Who are the creators? The grammarians. And they were topmost grammarian like Panini, like Patanjali, like Kaktayan and all. They created that language. It was a language created for the elite. बड़े लोगों की भाषा के रूप में ये भाषा विकसित हुई. ये भाषा जो है आम जनसाधारण के लिए नहीं थी. ये भाषा विकसित हुई बड़ों के लिए एक परिनिष्ठित भाषा. It is a language which was a special language created by the grammarians to be used by the high class of Indian society. And slowly it became the language of power. It became a language of power, Sanskrit, during the ancient time. So this is the speciality of Sanskrit, that it did not grow automatically like the flow of a river which changes, जो चेंज करता है अपना कोर्स, अपना किनारा, एक किनारे से दूसरे किनारा बना लेता है. ऐसा नहीं हुआ. संस्कृत को बनाया गया. It was created. And it became a very powerful language, and it is one of the powerful languages of the world. No doubt about it. Third is Hindi. What is the speciality of Hindi? First thing, all these languages have a state. All the languages have a state. किसी न किसी state की भाषा होती है. Sanskrit is not a language of a state. It is a pan-Indian language. Sarva Bharatiya Bhasha. Urdu is not a language of a state. इसको इस्तेमाल करते, this is used by many states. Many states. For example, Uttar Pradesh, UP, Bihar, they all use Urdu. Delhi is also used Urdu. Number 2. Number 3, Hindi is also like that. You can't say it is a language of a state. You just can't say. Because state का जो language है वो different होता है. If you ask all these people who speak Hindi as a standard language, if you just get into their mind, the language which they speak is never Hindi. They speak different types of languages. And this is the best thing of Hindi. Hindi is just not one language. It is a combination of many languages. I am particularly speaking to Tamilians. Remember, Hindi is a language which is a combination of many languages. It is not one language. I will say something more after some time. This is point number one. And this is the beauty of that language. When you go to Gujarat, and if you hear the Gujarati actors and actresses using Hindi in channels, their pronunciation is different. The Punjabi pronunciation of Hindi is different. The Haryanvi pronunciation of Hindi is different. The Varanasi pronunciation of Hindi is different. And the Marwadis in Calcutta, they speak a different kind of Hindi. This is the beauty of Hindi. Hindi has all the diversity in it. It is really a language which has come out of its own with the help of so many languages. It is like an umbrella. And under that umbrella, there are many languages which grew together. एक छाते के नीचे बहुत सारी भाषाएं रची बसी हुई हैं और वो साथ में इकट्ठे जो है वो प्रकट हो रही हैं. What a beautiful language it is. I really marvel at times the way Hindi grew. And everybody helped Hindi. The first newspaper was brought out by a Bengali, the Hindi newspaper in Calcutta. The first MA course was opened in Calcutta University. The first MA in Hindi was a Bengali. His name was Nalini Kant Sanyal. There was Naren Dev. He went with his daughter to Punjab to propagate Hindi. There was another person, I'm forgetting his name, who went to Bihar to propagate Hindi. Hindi is used. In 1936, Mahatma Gandhi was invited by the Hindi Sahitya Sammelan, one of the big Hindi Sammelan, and they had their annual function and they invited Gandhi to preside over it. The first thing Gandhi did, wrote a letter to Tagore and said, I am invited by the Hindi Sahitya Sammelan. Please tell me what should I speak about Hindi in that Sammelan. Tagore wrote a letter which is published in the Tagore Gandhi letter brought out by National Book Trust, edited by Sabyasachi Bhattacharya. The first letter says, you will have to say in your lecture that Hindi is the national language of this country. In 1936, there was no, conflict among the people of India. They were all thinking of India's freedom that time. So Tagore is writing, you will have to say. But at the same time, you will have to say also that it is the duty of Hindi to see that all the languages of India grow simultaneously. Now this is the way Tagore wrote that letter too. Tagore created in his Vishwabharati Hindi Bhavan and started teaching Hindi up to MA level there. So remember one thing, that Hindi is a language which doesn't belong to any state. It grew on its own with the help of many languages, and it was held by everybody in India to see that it grows, and it grows well. But this country at the same time does not like if you are forced to do something. The people are very, very different in this country. Loka. इस देश में पीपल के लिए शब्द क्या है? लोक. यहाँ के लोग जो हैं वो बहुत दूसरे ढंग के. They are different. You just can't, determine their course of life. When Indira Gandhi came and promoted emergency, and after that Indira Gandhi fought the election, she was miserably defeated. But defeated by whom? By the Loka. The Loka are very important in this country, and I have told you Patanjali's statement, Lokamata. Lokamata determines the polity of this country. So Lok will reject you if you try to force upon them to accept something. They will not accept. So initially the government tried in 50s and 60s to impose Hindi on the people of India, and people of India did not accept it. Then government had better wisdom and they stopped it. They stopped it. And Hindi started growing on its own. And it grew to such an extent that it has become the language of wide circulation. I call Hindi LWC, language of wide circulation. It is spread all over India. Suniti Kumar Chatterjee spoke about Hindi, that it should be the national language of this country. But then there was a time, when people started opposing it. Opposing for the very fact, that those who speak Hindi, they will get better jobs. This is the main reason of opposing Hindi. Sabko naukriyan mil jayenge, and those who spoke other languages would not get it. This was the main reason of opposing Hindi. Anyway, they started opposing it. But when government stopped imposing, it started spreading. Because Hindi is the language of the mid-India. And it is a language which is used even by the Mughals. If you read the Farmans of Mughal, the official documents of Mughal, you will find 90% of the words in the Farman are not Urdu or Persian, but Hindi. And it grew on its own. And it grew to such an extent that in Bengali channels, now we can hear even Hindi. And that is a unique thing which it does not in any way lower the position of Bengali. No. It just shows the extension of the human mind. How the human mind extends itself and adapts so many things together. This adaptability is the vitality of India. भारत की जो vitality है वो है adaptability and resilience. हम हर चीज का मुकाबला कर सकते हैं with resilience. Resilience का मतलब है whatever happens in our country, we face it boldly and then start working, and the country moves absolutely like this. Two examples I will give you. In 1993, there was a big bomb explosion in the share market of Bombay. Hundreds of people died. But on the next day, people saw, to their surprise, आश्चर्यचकित हो गए, देखा कि all the agents of the share market, they are sitting on the floor, their computer gone, but they have opened the old registers and they started working with the help of old register. Resilience. Unique thing. In Bombay, there was a bomb explosion in the train. Next day, we saw the train with full of people, full of passengers. So this country has this resilience. This is its vitality. And the second vitality, as I said, is adaptability. We adapt. We easily adapt. We don't say reject anything. We accept it. And this is a very good thing about India. And India's culture has grown because of this kind of vitalities. I spoke about Hindi, Sanskrit and Urdu now. Urdu, those who speak Urdu, I must tell you, all these modern Indian languages grew in 1000 AD. Marathi, Gujarati, the standard Hindi, slowly, and Bengali, Assamese, they all started growing as modern Indian language in 1000 AD. But Urdu grew in 1300 AD. Urdu grew in the camps of Mughal army. Mughal army has people who came and became soldiers as a profession. So in Mughal army you had Andhrites, people from Andhra, people from Rajasthan, people from Maharashtra. They all came to do a job, to accept it as a profession. And when all these soldiers stayed together, they wanted a language, a common language which they can all use. So Urdu started becoming a common language of the soldiers, of the Mughal army. It grew like this, but with the passage of time, समय के साथ साथ उर्दू में लिखने वाले बहुत बड़े बड़े शायर पैदा हो गए. गालिब, मीर, ये बड़े शायर पैदा हुए. They are the great poets who started writing in this language. And Urdu became one of the topmost languages of this country. You will be surprised to know that there are 6 Bengali translation of Ghalib's Kalam in Bengali. Abu Said Ayub, Shakti Chattopadhyay and many others, they translated Ghalib's Kalam into Bengali. The ghazals are so famous. When somebody speaks Urdu, it sounds so euphonious. कर्ण मधुर लगता है सुनने में. लगता है या नहीं? सही बोलिए. लगता है. हिंदी इस मामले में, हिंदी किसकी भाषा है? हिंदी कॉन्फ्रंटेशन की भाषा है. Hindi is a language which is used when we are confronting, when we are struggling, when we are, वो उसकी भाषा है. इसलिए हिंदी जो है वो खड़ी बोली है. खड़ी क्या होती है? What is a खड़ी? You know, when we cook lentil, dal, when you cook dal, if dal is not cooked properly, we say dal khadi hai. Dal is standing in Hindi. So it is a khadi boli. This is one of the dialects of Hindi, khadi boli, which is the standard Hindi spoken in Delhi, Meerut and Gwalior. This is the area, this whole area. Here the standard Hindi is spoken, khadi boli. But it is a khadi boli. So in Bengal, during the Naxal movement, the slogan was Mausu Tumki Jai in Hindi, not in Bengali. It was spoken in Hindi, because Hindi is the language of confrontation. And all these qualities you must keep in your mind. भाषा कैसे विकसित होती है. उर्दू के बारे में बताया. It is a language, it is a very powerful language now, बहुत powerful है, and it is our language. Remember, it is not the language of Pakistan. It is our language. It has grown in the soil of this country. Never forget it. इस देश की धरती से ये लैंग्वेज पैदा हुई है. हम इसको दूसरा का लैंग्वेज कैसे कह दें? हम नहीं कह सकते. ये हमारे देश की लैंग्वेज है, भाषा है. And we are proud that we have so many languages, 22 languages, which are the national languages of this country. So, my dear, you go for tea, come back with your questions. I will reply to your questions first and then take up the other one, which is narratives and stories in visual and performing arts. Thank you.